Hey all, today's video will be a budget commander deck. Today I have chosen Trostani Selesnya voice. It's a 4 converted mana cost. It's 2 white, 2 green. We'll get into that in a minute. For those of you who have never seen any of my videos before, welcome. My name is Dave and I run the Blue Bears Games channel. For those of you returning, thank you for coming back. Hopefully you enjoy, both sets, enjoy what I have to do. Today I'm going to further go into the different video that I've decided to go with. I'm going to actually do things a little differently on this one, even further than the previous one. So, again, Tristani. So, Trostani is 2 white, 2 green for a 2/5. It's a legendary dryad, and it says whenever another token enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness, and you can pay a generic, a white, a green, tap it, and populate. So you can kind of tell what direction this deck is going to go in based upon the commander. It's going to be a token Lifegain deck. So we're going to go further into that in a little bit, and I have actually a game plan for the video today, so I'll go over some things as we're going. So that's the commander, Trostani. It's a good one. So I always start off with the lands. So as far as this goes, this is budget deck, so budget has to dictate what I can put in here. So we're going to start off with Temple of Plenty, green-white, Elfheim Palace, and again, you're gonna, if you want to read what a card does, if I'm going too fast, just pause the video and then you'll be able to see it. And also remember, every video gets its own link to the deck list with a hoverable or a clickable. You know, each card is hoverable and you can see what it looks like, or clickable, depending on what device you're using. So Elfheim Palace, Blossoming Sands, Tranquil Expanse, and Selesnya Guildgate, a Grey Pelt Refuge, and then an interesting one is Corrosion Verge. It enters tapped, taps to add a colorless. It's not what you're looking for, but it also, you can pay 2, tap, and sack it, and search your library for a forest card and a plains card and put them onto the battlefield tapped. Mirrored Landscape, same thing, so you can still go search for 2 basic lands and put them into play of the same type, I believe. Yeah, that share type. And then Blighted Woodland, again, more sacking to go get some more lands. Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse, and then just some basic plains and forests, so you can go search for them as well. So one thing I'm going to do differently going forward is I'm going to tell you some of the upgrades you could do. So for a deck like this, the first thing I would say is your land base would be Savannahs. Obviously pricey. It's a dual land, an OG dual land. Not going to, I mean, of course, of all the dual lands, it's one of the cheaper ones, but as far as the deck for here, I'm trying to stay within the $30 to $40 range, possibly $50. That's way out of the range. Then you have a Temple Garden and a Windswept Heath. So it's the shock land and the fetch land. There are many other types that can go along that are better. There's the, I forget what their cycle name is, but the ones that they tap data colors, or you can pay either a white or a green, and it adds in either a white, a green, or double white. So there's a couple options there. Up next is, and since we're in green, it's a lot easier to do, is our ramp section. So I went with Beneath the Sands. Obviously, you can cycle it away if you've already got enough land. Journey of Discovery, Untamed Wilds, Growth Spasm. And the reason for Growth Spasm was because it also puts a token into play, and you're always trying to get tokens, especially if you can populate ones that you can stack to add colorless mana to your mana pool. It's just a bonus. Sky Shroud Claim, and Seek the Horizon. Now, as far as the ramp section goes, you're gonna have multiple choices, especially if you're in green. So for me, while I have a lot of the spells, part of what you can do is you can add some mana rocks in here. So there's Arcane Signet, there's a land tax. You can actually put land tax in here. It's a little bit pricey as well, but you can put it in here to go search for lands. It's not mana fixing, it's not mana ramp, it's mana fixing with land tax, but you can still use it. Farseek is another spell you can put in here. Spoils of Victory, Nature's Lure, 3 visits, that just got reprinted. Stuff like that. So there's so many options that you can do. So what I would suggest is, I have an Android phone. That's what I use to film the videos on. My suggestion is, if you have an Android phone, go and download the MTG Familiar app and it'll allow you to search parameters so easily. It's what I use for everything. If I get a chance to, I'll definitely put a screenshot up here. Like everything that I suggest, I'm gonna put I'm gonna put up on the screen for you guys. But for MTG Familiar, it's such a useful tool. I use it for anything I can't remember, because remember, I have the MS. My memory is not as good as it used to be. So for me, I know that there are cards that exist that do certain things. I put the parameters in that I'm looking for, and bang. So for instance, with Ramp, you just put in the search, you put in color identity green, or even just card color green, because you have an option for color identity and color of card. And then put in the text box, search land, search forest, search whatever. And it'll come up and bring you up. It'll bring up everything you are looking for as far as that does exactly what you worded. So there's those. That's an option for you. Next section we're going to go into is the creatures. You're going to notice the theme here. I went with not just token, but soul sister. So a lot of life gain. So obviously we go with Soul Warden, Soul's Attendant, and Suture Priest is my favorite because it has whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, may have that player lose a life. I like the ability to be able to do damage as well. Anointer Priest is kind of a soul sister. It's not in this deck it will be, because it says whenever a creature token enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. It also embalms, so it creates itself a token of itself. Daxos, I have this in here because it's also a soul sister style, but it also gets a little bit bigger because most of the Soul Sisters are 1/1s, except for Anointed Priest is a 1/3. There's an additional bonus to the Soul Sisters that I didn't realize until I finished the deck and I made a change at the last second. And just keep in mind, Cleric. Keep that in mind for later. Crusader of Odrix. So a lot of the creatures in here will have the same ability of the power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. This is the first one. Phantom General, because it makes creature tokens bigger. Gold Knight Commander. Now, I'm actually going to put this aside for now, and I'll explain why Gold Knight Commander's in here in a little bit. Jade Mage, because it creates tokens. Spawnwraith also creates tokens. It actually creates tokens of itself, so it just keeps getting big, more and more copies of it. Plus, it has Trample, and the tokens with the ability to grow with something like the Phantom General. The tokens will be better than the actual original card. Spore Mound, again, when you play a land, it puts a token into play. End Raise Forerunners is actually more of an end game thing. So I am running out of things like overruns. So I had to, this is kind of like a mini Crater Hoof, and I say mini. It's not anywhere near as good, but it does the job on a budget. So it's 8 to cast, so it's a little expensive mana-wise. It's a 7/7 Vigilance, Trample, Haste, and when it enters the battlefield, other creatures you control get +2/+2 and Vigilance and Trample. So this is the end game. All those tokens, you just overrun everybody. Amara. So with Amara, I'm trying to figure out, I couldn't find a way with what I had and what I was going through to tap her consistently. Obviously, you can use things like Convoke and maybe a equipment that says tap to do something. I did not find anything I was looking for by the time this deck was done. That's an option you can go with. Vitu-Ghazi Guild Mage. Obviously, it populates and creates tokens. Shanna Sisay's Legacy. Again, it's one of those, it gets +1/+1 for each creature you control. So it also has the added ability of a little evasion. This is like mini evasion, so it can't be the target of abilities your opponents control, but it can be a target of spells, so keep that in mind. Selesnya Guild Mage, again, more token creation, but also a pump ability for the overrun effect. Conclave Guild Mage creates tokens again, and then also gives your creatures, the most important thing about this card is the trample that it gives. Trample is the evasion you're looking for to get damage through. Wayfaring Temple, again, another one of the creatures that has power and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control. But when it deals damage to somebody, specifically a player, it populates so you can create more tokens. Ironroot Warlord, another one of those. Its power is equal to the number of creatures you control instead of both power and toughness. But it's got a nice butt on it. It's got a 5 defense, and it also creates tokens. And same thing with Letiv Champion. Again, it's 2/2 instead of a star 5. When it attacks, you may tap any number of untapped creatures you control, and that's partially one of the reasons why it's in here is so that I could get a tap ability in with where is she? Amara. So it can tap her so she can create the token. And then also at the end, it also creates tokens as well. So that is the creatures that I've chosen for this budget version. Up next, we're going to have the spells. To go back on the creature side, I mentioned it, but like things like Craterhoof Behemoth for a deck like this do so much. Unfortunately, that's more expensive monetarily than the rest of this deck combined. So you don't really want to put yourself in that situation, but if you have the means, I highly suggest you do so. Alright, up next, all of the token generators, spell-wise. So Recruit the Worthy because it has buyback. Raise the Alarm because it's cheap. Same thing with Gather the Townsfolk, cheap, and also can create more tokens depending on your life. Servo Exhibition, Master's Call, Midnight Haunting creates flying tokens, which is always a bonus. Queen's Commission creates lifelinking tokens. Again, more life gain. Rally for the Throne has Adamant, so you can gain life for each creature you control if you spend at least 3 white mana on it. So basically, spend 3 white, create 2 humans, and then gain a lot of life. More lifelinkers from Swarm Companions. Splicer's Skill actually is one of the cards that creates the higher power toughness tokens. I don't have a lot of things that create more than 1/1 or 2/2s, and there's a reason for that, but this one does in case you need the higher power toughness. Spectral Reserves, again, flyers and life gain. Sends Enlistment, it has Retrace, meaning that you can discard a land card in addition to paying its cost from your graveyard, so you can keep casting it over and over again. When you get further into the game and you have extra land coming up, your land draw won't be a waste if this is in your graveyard. Call to the Cavalry, so Vigilance tokens, then they're 2/2s. Battle Screech, it has flashback and creates flyers, so obviously it's an auto include. Increasing Devotion has flashback, so you can cast it again. I tried to get some resiliency, when you have no cards in your hand, because green and white is really weak at drawing cards. You have the abilities, you have stuff to do even if your hand is not full, okay? Chatter the Squirrel, just because it's squirrels, and I love squirrel tokens. Has flashback as well. Sapperling Migration because it can be kicked, and you can create a bunch of tokens with this. And I love Sapperlings, it's one of my favorite tribes. Sprouting Renewal, again, it has Convoke, so you can actually use it to tap Amara and create a token along with the tokens. But this one has some utility to it, so you can create tokens or you can destroy an artifact or enchantment, so it's kind of more universal for certain situations. Spore Swarm because, again, more Sapperlings. Trumpeting Herd, again, another one of those ones that creates 3/3s. It also has Rebound, which means you play it and then you get to play it again for free the next turn. Elephant Ambush. The green, okay, if you haven't noticed, the green cards are the ones that create the higher power toughness stuff, just so you're aware. Has flashback and creates a 3/3 elephant. Who doesn't like to put elephants in play? Second Harvest, it actually creates tokens equal to it actually creates copies of each token that you already have, so it doubles your tokens on the board. Reach for Branches because whenever a forest enters the battlefield, you may return it to your hand. So again, if you do happen to have top deck mode and you just get a forest and this is in your graveyard, at least you get something that you can do. Bestial Menace because it puts 3 different tokens into play. Bailout Cage Trap. This one's a little interesting. So it's cheaper than the 5 if you can cast it when an artifact, if an opponent had an artifact enter the battlefield under their control, you can pay 2, and you put a 4/4 green beast token into play. Cobra Trap, another trap. This one puts 4 1/1 green snakes onto the battlefield, and you can read that it hits conditions that you can make it for 1 green. Howl of the Night Pack because you should have, I believe that there's 12 forests in here, so if you have all that ramp that you used and got a lot of the forests, and this gets cast, you should be able to create 12 2/2s. That's pretty much end game right there, especially if you have an end raised Forerunner that is in your hand. Call the Conclave because it's the cheapest for the best. It's 2 to cast for a 3/3. Night Soil, you're going to have to read this one. gets a little convoluted, but basically it's graveyard removal and put Zapperlings into play. And Retreat to Emiria. So this one is a landfall trigger. So this one has dual purpose. Creates a token or buffs your creatures depending on where you are in the game. So, alright. So, as far as spells go, there are a couple of things that you can kind of put in here to make it a little more expensive, but a little bit better and more consistent. It really does depend on you. So, Finale of Devastation is a good option. I'll put that up here. I'll put that up right here for you to see what that one is. Possible card draw. There's stuff like Harmonize, and the biggest weakness in the deck is the card draw, like I said before. So, you know, there are some things you can do. Not a lot when it comes to green-white. So, unfortunately, that's the best I can give you off the, you know, right off the top of my head. I'm sure that as I go through, I will put, if I do remember any other ones I can put up there, I will put them up here, and I'll show you guys what they are. So some utility stuff here. Actually, this is defense. So defense is pretty simple. It's Dusk to Dawn, so it's destroy all creatures with power 3 or greater. That's why most of the tokens here do not have greater power. And then you can do Dawn, which is you can return those creatures to your hand. So that's the way to get your stuff back. Tranquility, because you don't have a whole lot of enchantments in this deck, so you want to blow up everybody else's. You know, there's a Layla decks out there that you could use that would totally destroy. There's stuff out there. And Sundering Growth, because it does exactly what you want it to do. It's an instant for 2, just like Naturalize. It destroys an artifact or enchantment, and then you populate, which means you create another token. So it's the only defense I have in the deck for the moment. If you do end up purchasing it, I'm sure that you'll find you can take some of the token makers out and put some more defense in, depending on your meta. Your meta makes this completely relevant. I don't know what you're playing with. Most of the time when I'm playing, people just want to do their thing. So there's not a lot of things I need to destroy. So, but I left that open so that if you do purchase it, you can put in things like Naturalize, and White has things like Swords to Plowshares, and, you know, they're more expensive monetarily, but they do the job. So, some utility, Intangible Virtue. So, creature tokens you control get +1/+1 and have Vigilance. Always good to have Vigilance. Phyrexian Vault. The Vault is so that you can sacrifice some of those tokens to draw cards. I'm trying my best to get this deck tuned to where it's working the way I want it to. Drawing cards is a big part of Commander. It's a big part of Magic, but especially in Commander. So this is my way in this deck to be able to do it. Now, the next card is important. I said, do you remember Clerics? I didn't even realize this card existed. Like, I had opened it, put it away, never even thought of it. So, it's the same thing as a Phyrexian Vault. So, they're both 3 to cast. They both have 2 taps, sacrifice a creature, draw a card. So, that's the first part. Important. 2 things in here that help you draw cards, okay? I didn't realize the second part. When I was looking for cards that draw cards, I came across this and I went, oh my god, does this deck have Clerics? It does. It has in droves. So, as long as you control a Cleric, Relic Vial basically becomes an Aristocrats deck. Each opponent, whenever a creature dies that you control, each opponent loses life and you gain a life. So, more life gain. It makes this deck actually viable to win. Other than just trampling over your opponent, you can play the long game, okay? So it gives this deck an Aristocrat style. You can add to that if you'd like. There are some white cards that can help add to that. It's not, you know, there are artifacts, actually. It's few and far between, but you can do it if that's the way you choose. So, there's other things too. Like I said, it depends on your playgroup with the removal. It really does depend. And then that is how you can try to win. On if it's a stalemate and you can't get attacks in, which is why I gave abilities for trample. That way you can get through. You can try to play the long game and just bleed everybody dry Aristocrat style. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is the combo in here. So, I pulled a card out because I forgot it was in here, and I'm going to show you the combo. Some people will recognize this combo. Some people will not. This gives you infinite creatures, tokens specifically, and if you have Gold Knight Commander out, it makes them power and toughness equal to however many creatures you had come into play that turn. So, if you put 1,000 creatures into play, they're all plus 1,000 plus 1,000. Hence the reason Endray's Forerunner can also be the killer, because it'll give everybody trample. So, the trick to this is you have Midnight Guard, which untaps whenever a creature comes into play. You you enchant it with Presence of Gond, which says tap it to put a 1/1 green elf into play. So that's infinite right there. Gold Knight is just the icing on the cake because you can stack it correctly. And if you need more help with how to stack it correctly, I will go over that in comments or what have you. But if you stack it correctly, every time a creature comes into play, if you, in response to this trigger, put another token into play and you keep doing it, they each get the bonus of the +1/+1. Now remember, unless you have haste enablers, you don't do that on one turn. You have to have a way to make them hasty, or at the end of your opponent's turn before you create the tokens, and then when it comes to your turn, create more to give them the buff. Okay? That's how that works. So that is my Trostani. I think I put him in backwards. Yep, it is. That is my Trostani Selesnya's Voice tokens and partially Aristocrats and partially Soul Sisters deck. So one other card that I have to mention. I didn't realize how expensive it was monetarily, but one of the cards you can add to this to make this knockout. I believe it's called Test of... It's either Endurance or it's something. I'll put it up here and let you guys see it. But it basically says when you have 50 or more life, you win the game at the beginning of your upkeep. So I think it's Test of Endurance. I can't remember off the top of my head, again, MS. But I will put it up here. I'll let you guys see it. And apparently it's like a $20, $30, or $40 card. I don't remember how much it was, but it's almost the same price as this deck. So I can't add it here. I don't even have one. So, or if I do, it's actually already in a deck because I play Luro and that's where it would go. So that's another option. So those are the, this is the Tristani deck that I built. It is for sale. I have actually started doing Facebook sales recently, and it's been doing really well. I've already sold about 7 decks, the $20 budget decks that you guys can see in my budget deck section. And I also sold one of the Commander decks already. So I'm adding this to the list of things that are for sale. It's $40 or $35 for 2. And, I've given you the upgrades that I would choose for the deck. You can do your own thing. You can keep it just the way it is. If you buy 2 Commander decks, if you're trying to learn how to play or trying to get somebody into playing, they're evenly matched, most of my Commander decks, so that they can be used against each other and it's not going to, one person's going to murder the other in 2 turns. So, anyway, do me a favor, like, subscribe, share. We're at 220 as of this video. I do have a giveaway. I have a arena code that I'm giving away to anybody whose name I can see on the list of my subscribers. If you are not listed on my subscribers because you don't allow that, go ahead and put a comment in any one of my videos saying, hey, this is me. I want to be part of the giveaway. I don't know which arena code I'm going to give away. I have a whole bunch of them. I have the Walking Dead Secret Lair. I have the Stargazing one. And I'm going to have the Bob Ross and the Seb McKinnon ones soon. Actually, I think I have them already, the codes. So, get me to 300. It's up to you guys to do it. I try my best. I try to do whatever I can to make this as entertaining and informative as I can. But I can only do so much, so I need your help. Like, subscribe, share. The more likes you get, the higher visibility my videos are. Subscribing, if you haven't done so already, helps my numbers as well. And sharing helps get other people into it. So, that is my show for the week. I will see you guys next week.